Hey, what it do, y'all? It's your boy E2 Blue coming back at you again, man. And happy Sunday, Labor Day weekend. I hope everybody's enjoying their weekend, having fun, enjoying yourself, but also stay out of trouble because that's what I will always say. Um, Cowboys did finally do their roster cuts yesterday. I'm going to talk about the roster cuts, what I think about certain players, things of that nature. You know how we do. I'm excited about this season coming up next week as the Cowboys get back to work on Tuesday to get ready for the New York Football Giants first game of the season. It's a home game. Like I said before, those of you that are actually going to the game, have fun, be safe, and rep the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys Nation, baby. That's how we do. Now, as I get into this, I want to say for most of the team, it's not really a surprise. There's a couple of surprise cuts because, Cowboys don't usually cut draft picks, but this year is unique because, as you know, this particular offseason, unlike ones that I've ever remembered before, we have a lot of depth and a lot of talent on this team. So cutting down to 53 was definitely hard. I will say myself that I'm glad that I wasn't a Turk or any guys making decisions on cutting this team down because I'm telling you, it's crazy. I'm gonna start with the first of all, I'm gonna start with the cuts. Then I'm gonna talk about the guys that are, I guess, reserve players that they still own the rights to, but they're basically redshirting. So they're still on the team, but they can't play. So they're done for the season. And then, of course, our 53-man roster. And we do have some jersey number changes as well I'm going to get into. So I'm going to talk about it all. So let's get ready. So, all right. So, the Cowboys had to cut 37 guys from 90 to get to 53. So those cuts were Jawan Bushnell-Beatty, Jake Campos, this is the fourth-string quarterback we had, Taryn Christian, Jordan Chung, Chris Covington, Reggie Davis, Tristan Decoud, Jalen Guyton, which was a young guy that we all like, undrafted guy. He might possibly come back and make the practice squad. Who knows? Nate Hall, he was a linebacker, very tall guy. I think he was like 6'2", but he was a tall linebacker, but he played well in that fourth preseason game, and he played most of the game at linebacker position. So, but he showed a little something. So who knows? He may be a guy they may put back on the practice squad as well. Offensive lineman Mitch Hyatt, that's a guy that I had. If you guys remember, I had Mitch Hyatt on my draft board. I talked a little bit about him back when we were doing the draft stuff. Darius Jackson, running back, we already know. I feel sorry for Darius Jackson because he's been on this team, 3, 4 times now, going to Cleveland and coming back, he went to the Packers, I think, at one time and came back. He's been a guy, and they interviewed him in the offseason and training camp when they were in Oxnard, and he was just saying, basically, he really wanted to be a part of the Dallas Cowboys organization. I don't know if he has any more practice squad eligibility, but we'll see. But again, with the running backs and stuff, you had to cut somewhere because we have a stable of guys that are going to make this team, and you can't keep everybody. That's just the bottom line. Mike Jackson. Oh my God. So this is the 5th round draft pick that we got from the U from Miami. But Joe Jackson made the team. Mike Jack didn't make the team, but I already know that he's going to come back on the practice squad because, he was a little injured. He was dealing with a little bit of injuries, but they look at this guy, 4.3 speed. They're definitely going to put him on the practice squad. So he's going to be able to come back with this team. I already know that he's going to be the practice squad. Now, they all got to clear the waiver wire. These guys are probably not going to get put back, or we're probably not going to hear about it till, Monday's holiday, tomorrow's holiday. So, Tuesday, we'll probably hear the final practice squad players. Now, these guys already know, the ones that are going on the practice squad, they already know that they're coming back. But, we just don't know yet. But I'm pretty sure that Michael Jackson is going to be one of the guys that's coming back. Marcus Lucas, they cut tight end Marcus Lucas. Now, I really loved his play in preseason. I was joking when I watched the game because he had Rico Gathers' number when Rico Gathers left. And I was like, Rico Gathers? Like, no, that's Marcus Lucas. Now, Marcus Lucas does not have practice squad eligibility. So the chances of him coming back is very slim to none because you got your three guys already here as at tight end. But I wish they would have kept four because I really like Marcus Lucas. I think that he can catch that ball. Now, granted, I don't know what his blocking ability is, but I don't care. You got a big, tall guy like that, he could definitely be a red zone threat. And he was getting some pretty good rapport with these quarterbacks. So I don't know. Hopefully something happens. I doubt it, but hopefully something happens. We're in the 53 because again, this is not the final cuts. There are going to be some changes because, again, we got guys that are suspended coming back. Ezekiel Elliott's coming back. So they have to move some pieces around to make these fit to still be at the 53-man roster thing, whatever. For it to be 53, they're going to have to make some changes. But like I said, I really like Marcus Lucas. I'm pretty sure he's going to go to another team. He's been flip-flopping through so many different teams, going to different training camps. I think he's been in the league like 2 or 3 years or something like that already. So again, he doesn't have any more practice squad eligibility. So with that being said, going forward, Lucaeus McNeil, he's another cut. Donovan Olumba. Now, they cut Donovan Olumba, which, they already said that was a hard decision to make. But, when you got a guy like Donovan Wilson out there playing lights out, even with the play of Olumba. So I think the thing with Olumba, he plays well. But the problem with him, and I told you guys before, he's a very handsy player. He's a guy that's going to get caught on, he's going to get a lot of PI penalties. He's going to get a lot of pass interference. And you look at him, and he's not as fast as he should be at his position. So, going up against some of these fast receivers, he would get burnt. And I think that's another reason why, again, he could be a guy that they're going to put back on the practice squad, I would believe. Also, the next guy, too, Justin Phillips. I think that linebacker, with him, he could be a practice squad guy as well. They really liked him and the work that he did. He was number 44 in preseason, if you guys remember him. Kyle Quiro. This guy has been on the team for a couple of years. They've been flip-flopping with him, trying to figure out what to do with him. They flip-flopped him from linebacker to safety because he had position flex. Now, I don't know if they're going to put him on a practice squad again. We'll more than likely know on Tuesday, and I'll talk a little bit about that then. Casey Redfern, the other kicker / punter that we had, he didn't fit the bill. He was actually, you guys don't like Brett Maher. You really don't like Casey Redfern because he made even less kicks than Brett Maher did. Drew Scott was another cut. Shakir Soto, you guys remember him. He was in the AAF before they got disbanded, and he came to the Cowboys in the offseason after AAF fell through. Ricky Walker, I think this is a guy from Virginia Tech. He was a defensive guy, pass rusher that the Cowboys were looking at. But again, we had so many other guys that were higher than him that it just didn't make sense to keep him. Mike Weber, the running back. Now, I know some people are shocked about that one because he's a draft pick and he's an Ohio State guy. But Mike Weber, he's going to be back on the practice squad, so I'm not worried about Mike Weber. Cedric Wilson, also, he played very well in preseason. Cedric Wilson, as we know, was redshirted last year for injuries. He had a couple of issues this year as well, but I think that he's a guy that could be put back on the practice squad as well when they get their roster together. Daniel Wise, that's another guy. They really liked him. Daniel Wise would have made this team. He would have made this team if they didn't have that many good defensive ends. I'm telling you. This defensive line is going to be nasty this year. I'm trying to tell y'all right now, it's really special what we got going on right now. Y'all got to be a part of this, Cowboys Nation. Daniel Wise, I just said that. Daniel Wise, yeah, I liked him as well. Ryan Urachek, I don't even know why the hell he was on the team. They didn't really play him like that until the 4th preseason. He was the backup fullback. We already knew that Jameis Olawale was going to make this team. He was pretty much just a camp body just to fill it up to 90. George Iloka. And you guys could say, I told you, E2, whatever. I had high hopes for him when he first came to the team because I gave him the benefit of the doubt because George Iloka is a veteran. He started his career with the Bengals. Then he went to the Vikings, and the Vikings played him out of position. Now, what the thing about George Iloka is he's not a guy that you're going to see do big things in practice because he's not a ball hawking type of safety. He is a box safety. He is a true guy that's going to make a sure tackle and make sure that the guy doesn't get past you. Now, he's good at that, but because of the dynamic guys that we do have on this team right now, which is a good thing, there's no room for him on this roster. So, unfortunately, I think he's the only like veteran guy that we got in the offseason, like free agency, that didn't make this team. So that could be a little embarrassing for him, but I'm pretty sure he'll bounce back. He'll go to another team that really needs some solid safeties. Because like I said, I still think that George Iloka is a solid guy. We just didn't play him that much. And that's why you guys didn't see him. You didn't really get a good, you couldn't get a good base on how he was because they just didn't play him because they wanted to see these young guys. And I guess they just felt like, we'll rather play the young guys than you, sir. Cody McElroy, tight end. Guy that played 1 year college football. He is truly a baseball player. There'll be another team that will pick him up, that will give him a chance. He did decent in training camp and the preseason, but again, you can't pick everybody. Tyvis Powell is another cut. And, of course, last but not least, Jamil Showers. Now, I've always been a fan of Jamil Showers because, again, he started off as our backup quarterback, and then they moved him to safety over the years. Now, he's been with this team consistently for a while. Now, they're finally getting rid of him only because he doesn't have practice squad eligibility. I believe if Jamil Showers didn't run out of practice squad eligibility, I believe that he would still come back to this team. But, wish him the best in his future and what he does. Now, I think that our new Jamil Showers is going to be that quarterback that we had, Tyron Christian. They might use him as that guy in scout team on a practice squad. So when they practice, they can make him be like a tight end that we're playing so he can simulate an enemy of that week that we're playing. So that could be a reason why they're doing that. Now, those are the 37 cuts, guys. So, really not many surprises there. I mean, outside of Mike Jackson and a few other guys. But, again, and Donovan Alumba. But outside of that, that's what you expected pretty much. Now, I want to get into the reserve list. Now, these are the reserve players that the Cowboys still have rights to. But like I said in the beginning of the video, they cannot play this season. They are going to be what you call red-shirted, so they're going to be done for the season. And those guys are as listed. Our draft pick, Jalen Jelks. I think that we drafted him in the 7th round. They really were high on him. He played pretty decent, but they want to see more of him. They want to see more of him. So because of that reason and because of I think he had a shoulder injury, they're going to go ahead and reserve him for next year. John V. Johnson, you guys remember he got injured. I think he had a shoulder injury as well. John V. is that undrafted guy, that wide receiver that we've been talking about all offseason, going into training camp. He played well, then he had a couple of drops in the games. But, as an undrafted guy, young guy, it happens. The lights come on. Sometimes it's a little bit too much for you. So John V. Johnson, he's still going to be around, just not around. Daniel Ross. Now, poor Daniel Ross. Daniel Ross is one of the guys that when we didn't have that defensive depth, he was definitely one of the core guys in my opinion. But because we had so many great players come through, especially with the emergence of Kerry Hyder and Christian Covington, which were two guys that we got in the offseason, one from Detroit and one from the Texans. Thank you, those teams, because you guys got rid of some good players, and we are going to benefit from that. Now, Daniel Ross just fell in the depth chart. It wasn't because they didn't like him, it's because of depth chart. But he's injured, which these injuries to these guys was probably the best thing that happened to them because all of these guys are players that the Cowboys really liked. But because they're injured, it's like, oh, we could put them on a reserve list. Thank God for this reserve list. we can hold their rights for a whole nother year, and let's try this again next offseason. That's pretty much how that's going to work. Chris Westry, the DB, that long, lanky guy, he had left in training camp and came back. They really like him as well, so they're going to give him another chance as well from his injuries. Let him heal up. Offensive lineman Cody Wickman. They really like him as well. They think that he could be a futures guy. He also got injured as well. Noah Brown, you guys know the team. For whatever reason, they love Noah Brown. And I know why, because he has Dez-like body type dynamic. So they're looking at him to be a future wide receiver for this team that can figure something out. But again, he's been hampered with injuries as well. But they're still trying to keep him around. So those are the reserve lists. Those are the guys that you won't see all season. But remember these names because they still are technically on the team. They're just not on the active roster. All right, let's get into our 53. Let's get into the 53, y'all. All right, so the 53-man roster, again, let's start with the quarterback, of course. My man, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is our starting quarterback. We already know that. We're just waiting on this contract. Let's see what they do. Cooper Rush is his backup, and it's just two. That's it. It's just two of them. Mike White, they could bring him back, but I don't know. Knowing him, he may want to go to another team to see if he can be a primary backup for somebody and not a third-string guy or somebody that can compete for a starting job somewhere that doesn't have a solid quarterback like the Cowboys do. So running back / fullback. So with the anticipation and the news reports coming out that Ezekiel Elliott could be signing and coming back this week, again, I don't speculate anything. This is what they say. I don't care until it happens. So I don't care about the whole Ezekiel Elliott stuff until they sign him. So I'm not going to worry about that. But you would think that the way that they cut the wide receiver group, they're basically gunning for Ezekiel Elliott to be back this week. That's what I'm getting just by looking at the roster. Just by using a little bit of common sense, guys. You look at the numbers, because they only kept, on the 53, they only kept Tony Pollard and Alfred Morris as the primary running backs. So you have Tony Pollard, you got Alfred Morris. Obviously, Ezekiel Elliott will be here because that'll be your third guy. And, of course, our fullback, Jameis Olawale. Now, look to see Jameis Olawale this year. They're with Kellen Moore calling the plays now. They are going to utilize him more. You're going to see him on wheel routes. You're going to see him on maybe a direct snap. You may see him on misdirections like they did on that 3rd and 1 and just, hand the ball off straight to him to the left side. Angle cuts, but we'll see. But I really like Jameis Olawale. I think that he has a lot of talent. We just didn't use him under Linehan. Tight end, of course, that's a no-brainer. We already know Jason Witten, Blake Jarwin, and Dalton Schultz. Now, you guys knew that Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz had hampering injuries in preseason. A lot of it was just cautionary things and not trying to utilize them until it's ready. It's time for them to play. Wide receiver. Now, we've been back and forth, you guys, all offseason about this wide receiver core. Now, you got Amari Cooper. That's your number one. You guys know that he has that plantar fasciitis. Now, he says that he's going to be ready for the season. The Cowboys and Jerry Jones are saying that he's ready to go this week. He said that when he had it before his rookie year, well, he did have 1,000 yards catching or whatever. So with that injury, so we'll see what happens with that. Of course, Michael Gallup, my man. Now, it's been a lot of deep balls with him and Dak. So look at you. If you guys are doing fantasy this year, you might want to put Michael Gallup on there as your second wide receiver because he's going to get you some yardage. I know Mark don't like fantasy, but it's just a fun thing to do. I mean, it's not, and Mark gets too much into it and says that, oh, well, you're rooting for another team. You're not rooting for another team. You're just you're. It actually helps you. It's bad and it's good. I understand where Mark coming from, where it's like you misevaluate how good a player is just by the fantasy. I get that part, but if you're a smart football guy like me that knows the game, you already know that it's an aberration. It is what it is. But when you talk about players and seeing their stats, you kind of get to know a player and know how they play just by seeing them in fantasy, not just your own. Me, I'm a type of guy. You already know I'm a YouTuber that I'll talk about other teams because again, the knowledge of other teams and knowing the enemy as well helps you with your team as well because you get to learn how they play and like, you know what, if we attack them this way, this is how we could beat them. So I was a firm believer of keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. That's how I feel. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb. Oh my God, Randall Cobb stays healthy. It's gonna be, oh my God, this wide receiver core is good. And I also noticed that none of the wide receivers have numbers in the 80s this year. I've never, as long as I've been watching the Cowboys, I don't remember a season where we didn't have a wide receiver with a jersey number in the 80s. That's funny. That's just a fun fact. Tavon Austin made this team, you know, because Allen Hurns is not here anymore. So I know he was the one that benefited the most from Allen Hurns being cut and going to the Dolphins. And surprising, they kept Devin Smith. So they only kept 5 receivers this year on the active rosters. Now, that could change going forward because we do have some guys that are on IR. So 2 guys that are still on the team technically, but they're on IR. Noah Brown, I already said that. And John V. Johnson. So John V. Johnson had his injury. So these are 2 guys that they're keeping around. Now, they're on IR. So I don't know if they have to stay out the whole year or maybe like 6 weeks or something like that. But they could come back and rotate depending on what's going on. But shout out to Devin Smith for making the team, man. He worked hard. He deserved it. So let's get to offensive line. So offensive tackle, you have Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins, and Cam Fleming as your swing tackle. So those 3, that's a no-brainer. We already knew that was going to be the case with that. I got something in my eye. Sorry, y'all. For guard, you know, you got your Zach Martin, you got your Connor Williams, then bulked up, got bigger. This boy he fighting, he playing. And of course, those are 2 starters. And then of course, you got your backups, Xavier Suafilo and Brandon Knight. Brandon Knight is a rookie that they kept. They really like Brandon Knight. He had a couple of injuries, but we'll see what's going on with him. Now, Connor McGovern, he actually might get put on IR. But again, he made the team as well, our draft pick. But he's probably going to be on IR. He might not even play this year at all. Welcome back. So we talk about center, Travis Frederick. If his injuries, his syndrome holds up and he doesn't get weak again, I think that it's going to be key for the Dallas Cowboys that he's back at center. And of course, your backup center is Joe Looney. They love Joe Looney not because he's a crazy character. I love him. I think he's awesome. But he played well as a backup. When he played all last season for Travis Frederick, he did a pretty good job. And he also has position flex because he could play guard as well. So you got a twofer there. You want guys with position flex on your team to create the atmosphere on your team that if you have an injury here, you could just slide this guy over with no problem. All right, so we go to defensive end. DeMarcus Lawrence, of course, your guy, the leader of the Hot Boys. Again, this is the part of the roster where they went deep. This is the reason why you only have 5 receivers. This is the reason why you only have 3 running backs. This is the reason why you only have 3 tight ends, and the reason why you only have 2 quarterbacks instead of 3. So your boy DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyrone Crawford, those are your starters there. So Kerry Hyder, I loved him. He did very well in preseason. When I did my film study on him, and for myself, that is, and looking at him from when he was with the Detroit Lions, just a dynamic player, can get to the ball. And he wreaked havoc in preseason when he played as well. So Kerry Hyder, I'm glad that he made the team. So then you have Dorrance Armstrong, Taco Charlton made the team, guys. I know some of you guys don't like Taco and want him traded away, but he did play well in that preseason game. Joe Jackson, our draft pick, 5th round guy from Miami to U. He made the team as well. Very try hard, work hard player. That motor just keeps on churning. He's going to get you. He played pretty well in preseason as well. Now Robert Quinn is on the team, but he's not counting for the 53-man roster right now because he's on the 2-game suspension. But you guys already know about Robert Quinn, so I really didn't need to talk about that. Defensive tackle. Kind of no-brainer here as well. for me anyway. Malik Collins, your boy Antoine Woods, Christian Covington from the Texans. That was my pet cat in the offseason. And, of course, our second-round draft pick, Tristan Hill. So those are your defensive tackles. Now, as we go into linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, Sean Lee. We already knew. Top 3. Now, you get into the nooks and the crannies of the linebacker position. We had a lot of young guys that played well. And there's 2 veterans that also made the backup as well, Joe Thomas and Justin March. Both Joe Thomas and Justin March, if we didn't have the starters, the great starting linebackers that we do now, these 2 guys would actually start on a different team. So that's just funny to see that. 5 of your linebackers are starters technically. So looking at the linebacker core, you can't do nothing but be happy about that. Come on. And then, of course, they kept Luke Gifford. Luke Gifford probably not going to play for a couple of weeks because he had an ankle injury. So, but he's going to be inactive, but he's on the 53-man roster. Luke Gifford worked hard, and he definitely was going to make this team. Well, he made this team, and shout out to him for that. So as I finish up here, cornerback, Byron Jones, Chidobe Awuzie, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, and C.J. Goodwin. Now, C.J. Goodwin made the team. You know, he had that interception in the preseason game, and he's a special teams guy. He's a gunner. He will hit you hard. Then you look at safety. We have Xavier Woods, Jeff Heath. There's no question there. Darian Thompson, they like him. He's a special teamer. My frat brother, Kayvon Frazier, he still made the team. He's a core special teamer as well. And Donovan Wilson made the team, our draft pick. Now, he had 3 interceptions in the preseason and played very well. So, shout out to him. He's also got a little nagging injury as well. He may be out a couple of weeks as well. So, he may be put as an inactive in the game. And, of course, special teams, no change there. Brett Maher, Chris Jones, and LP Lattiser, which is a 14-year veteran. Now, LP Lattiser might play till he's 70 because, you snapping, and he's really good at that. So that's the 53-man roster, y'all. To me, no big surprises. A couple of guys that I was looking at that was like, oh, he didn't make the team. But when we see the practice squad schedule come out on Tuesday, we'll see what happens with that. Now, let me know what you guys think about this roster, guys. Thanks again to all my subscribers. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Like, share, comment, subscribe. It's your boy E2 Blue, always keeping it real. I'll talk to y'all later.